I do not condone the use of any legal or illegal substances. This video was made for educational purposes.
Many times, maybe from one of your friends or from internet users, you've heard, "It's just a plant, bro," in defense of a few different psychoactive substances. This doesn't really hold any water when the leading cause of preventable death in many developed countries, including the United States, is, well, a plant: tobacco. And no, this isn't because of companies altering the plant in some way. While that may contribute to some of the toxins, tobacco on its own is just as deadly as its processed counterparts. So, why is this such a common argument? Simply put, it's ignorance. Especially with recent legalizations of cannabis, and in some places, mushrooms of the magic variety, people seem to underestimate the power of plants and fungi. Brew yourself a cup of tea, and let's get into the weird relationship humans have with plants. It may surprise you, but about 40% of the drugs at your local pharmacy are derived or discovered from plants. We have evidence of people using plants as medicine as far back as 60,000 years ago, so we've had a lot of time to figure out what works. Something most are familiar with is aspirin. The chemical is acetylsalicylic acid. This pain-relieving drug was found in the bark of willow trees and a couple other plants. It was only in 1853 that a French chemist discovered the process of synthesizing this chemical. These days, it's synthetically derived, as extracting the salicylates from plants is far less efficient and more costly, but it's still the exact same chemical as its naturally derived counterpart. People over time altered the chemical to produce different analogs for more specific purposes. You'll find this quite common going forward, as it's how many new medicines are discovered. If you've had your wisdom teeth removed or needed a stronger painkiller for surgery, you may be familiar with the opioid drug class. These chemicals are still derived from the poppy today. Yes, the pretty flower you see in many gardens may look quite innocent, but it contains extremely powerful compounds. Its Latin name is Papaver somniferum, somniferum literally meaning sleep-inducing. On its own, the flower contains both morphine, codeine, along with several other alkaloids. Thebaine is the alkaloid used to synthesize oxycodone, and there are even some varieties of poppies that have been bred specifically to produce high amounts of thebaine and less of the other alkaloids. Today, along with its more natural cousins, there are many synthetic opioids, the big scary ones being fentanyl and, of course, heroin. Funnily enough, heroin was initially introduced as a safer and less addictive substitute to morphine. We all know how that turned out. Heroin is basically two morphine molecules that have been bonded. In the body, the bond is broken and simply becomes morphine again, but the amount is larger, hence the potency of this drug. Fentanyl is an interesting opiate. It is fully synthetic, being based off of piperidine. Piperidine being discovered from piperin, the spicy chemical in black pepper. This drug was introduced for extreme pain that couldn't be managed by standard opiates, and it's nearly 200 times as potent as heroin. It's still used in medicine today. It's estimated that nearly 70,000 people die every year due to opiates. The coca plant is another plant you may know mainly for cocaine. There are 4 different species of erythroxylum that are used to extract this substance. Every time you've had your mouth numbed at the dentist, you've taken a cocaine derivative drug. Although this doesn't necessarily mean the drug itself was extracted from cocaine, but it has a similar mechanism of action. Novocaine, lidocaine, and benzocaine, just to name a few. Notice a similarity? They all end with caine. Cocaine on its own works amazingly as a local anesthetic, hence why there are so many drugs derived from it to serve this purpose. The problem is, cocaine has a psychoactive effect, and the abuse potential is quite high. Cocaine, as you may know, is very addictive. Cocaine from the coca plant is actually the only known local anesthetic to occur in nature. We don't have anything else that does the job quite like this plant. Many of these synthetic analogs were created due to the higher safety profile compared to cocaine, as well as their absence of narcotic properties. Coca-Cola still uses coca leaf extract today, although the extract excludes the active chemical cocaine. Stepan, a chemical company in the US, is the only US company authorized to import the leaves. Stepan extracts the leaves and sells the decocainized extract to Coca-Cola, while selling the remaining cocaine to a pharmaceutical company, Mallinckrodt, for medicinal uses. You've probably heard of methamphetamine and Adderall. Both of these stimulant drugs are synthesized from ephedrine. Ephedrine gets its name from the plant in which it's derived, ephedra. While they may be synthetic, a key role in their production is a chemical which was initially extracted from a plant. Of course, today both ephedrine and pseudoephedrine are synthetically produced, but they are the exact same chemicals found in ephedra plants. The plant has a common name Mormon tea due to its association with Mormons and its stimulating properties. A tea was made from the plants, as regular tea and coffee was off limits to Mormons. Tobacco has a long and strange history with humans. Tobacco's genus Nicotiana has 74 different species that occur in the wild, and there are also many hybrids in cultivation. One of the two species useful to humans, Nicotiana tabacum, only occurs in cultivation, as it's a hybrid that's been developed by people for thousands of years. Nicotiana tabacum is the species used in cigarettes, cigars, and smokeless tobacco, and has its origin in the Andes. Nicotiana rustica, its far more potent cousin, was originally from North America. Tabacum is far more predominant as its lower potency leads to an easier-to-ingest product. The chemical that makes these plants so addictive is nicotine. Nicotiana is named after John Nicot. In turn, nicotine was named after Nicotiana. Nicotine was historically used as a pesticide and still is to this day. It's the plant's way of defending itself. There are several other active chemicals in these plants, but it's prominently nicotine. As you are probably already aware, smoking tobacco can cause cancers, usually of the lung or esophagus. The buildup of tar with these chemicals also leads to chronic inflammation and later COPD. Smokeless products like dip and chew are usually fire-cured, adding in carcinogens like polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, besides the fact that the fermentation process used to make these products create tobacco-specific nitrosamines. These nitrosamines, shorthand TSNAs, are present in tobacco smoke as well, and are potent carcinogens. It may be just a plant, but it's by far the deadliest of all the plants I've mentioned so far, with 8 million people dying each year due to its use. I find it quite interesting that some of the most popular drugs of abuse all hail from plants. Well, here we go on this one, and before I start, let me preface with this. It may hurt your feelings when I start listing off the harmful and addictive nature of this substance. And if it does, you probably have a problem. Say whatever you want. It's just a plant, bro. I'm not addicted. But that is what we call cope. Unless you're prescribed this substance for a good reason, in which there are far better methods than smoking it, you really don't need it. Anyways, now that that's over with. Cannabis has been used by humans as early as 12,000 years ago. Not only was it used as a medicine, but also for its strong fibers and nutritious seeds. The main active chemical is tetrahydrocannabinol. It can cause a high that users enjoy, but can also lead to paranoia. There are also correlations with impaired memory and learning deficits with long-term use of this drug. While not physically addictive per se, it is most definitely addictive psychologically. But that doesn't mean you won't experience physical and mental withdrawal symptoms upon cessation. Burning and inhaling the resulting fumes from anything is dangerous, and can and will lead to problems in the future, no matter what you are smoking. The lungs are delicate structures that are not meant to inhale anything but good old-fashioned air. Cannabis smoking itself has been shown to lead to chronic lung disorders such as COPD and bronchitis. The act of smoking also lowers your ability to fight off infections and other foreign bodies. Cannabis also has some pretty strong correlations with mental disorders such as anxiety and depression as well. While there may be some disorders and diseases that can possibly be treated effectively with cannabis, like glaucoma, epilepsy, and Parkinson's disease, there isn't much else we know it can treat due to its long history of legalization. Maybe we'll find other possibilities for this drug, but it's important to note that no matter the substance, it's always a double-edged sword. There are many plants that are extremely poisonous. There's so many that I can't mention them all, so let's just stick to the most poisonous ones of the bunch. Castor bean. This plant is where castor oil is extracted from. The oil is used in cosmetics and other skincare products for its moisturizing properties. It was also commonly used as a laxative and quite common in folk remedies. Luckily, the process of extracting this oil leaves out or inactivates the toxic chemical found in this plant. The chemical of concern is ricin. Ricin is 6,000 times more poisonous than cyanide, and almost 12,000 times as deadly as rattlesnake venom. The plant itself is actually quite pretty. Ricin is still used today to poison pests like moles and gophers. Not something to be trifled with. Poisonous nightshades. Nightshade plants are quite diverse and make up many of the foods that people commonly eat. Some examples are tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, potatoes, and tomatillos, as well as tobacco. There are many more than this that are also eaten by people all over the world. The family Solanaceae also includes some extremely poisonous members. This includes Datura, an extremely poisonous plant with deliriant and hallucinogenic properties. Deadly nightshade berries, as you may know from the Hunger Games and a few other stories, as well as mandrake and henbane among others. Water hemlock. This plant is quite notorious among foragers. It is in the carrot family Apiaceae, which includes parsley, cilantro, dill, fennel, and a few other common edibles. Due to its similarity, it can be confused with its edible counterparts, but water hemlock is very deadly. There have been many instances of foragers passing away after eating this plant, thinking it was its cousin, the wild carrot. Manchineel. The manchineel tree, also known in Spanish as manzanilla de la muerte, meaning little apple of death, contains a few nasty poisons. The sap of this tree was even used by Native Americans to poison arrows and water supplies of rival tribes. Upon contact with the skin breaks out into painful blisters. Burning the wood also releases a toxic smoke that can blind or suffocate anyone unfortunate enough to be exposed to it. The tree is so toxic that simply standing under it during rain can poison you, as the water collects the toxins and drips down onto your body, causing blisters and rashes that can last for weeks. In places where it's endemic to, there are signs or rings painted onto the trunk to warn anyone who may happen upon them. This plant is in the family Euphorbiaceae, a family well known for its toxic and caustic sap. Rosary pea. Both this plant's common name, rosary pea, and scientific name, Abris precatorius, come from its historical use in prayer beads, although it's not usually used for this purpose in modern times. Rosary pea is likely the most toxic of all the plants I've mentioned so far, with the chemical abrin being 30 times more toxic than the ricin found in castor plants. Remember, ricin is 6,000 times more poisonous than cyanide, and almost 12,000 times as deadly as rattlesnake venom. The seeds have a beautiful red color and sheen, yet they contain likely the deadliest plant toxin known to us today. Everything on this earth is a chemical or compound, so claiming that a substance is natural and doesn't contain chemicals is just nonsense. Everything is made up of chemicals, synthetic or not. Some are harmful and others more benign. Natural is merely a term used as a marketing ploy to make you feel better about consuming whatever it is they're trying to sell you. As you can see, plants can be a life-saving medicine and some a nourishing food source, but they can also be a life-extinguishing poison. It's not their fault though. What matters is how and when we use them. This video isn't meant to make you afraid of plants. It's meant to help you understand them, and hopefully not underestimate them.